What is up, guys? It is week 3 of my 50k combine challenge, and let's see the results. Hey guys, it's Will. Welcome to the channel. I'm a part-time day trader trying to become a full-time. Over here, the Topstep trader performance tracker. You can't even see all the trades, but as you see, for now, my win rate is 67. My average winning trades is 1520, and my average losing trade is 486. So far in this challenge, I am up, as you see, because my win rate is 67. And since I have a 3-to-1 whistle reward, I'm risking about $500. My reward is going to be about $1,500. If you look over to the right as well, you can see the profit target is 3,000, and I'm about just under 500 to get that profit target. And all I need is one trade. And if you look down here, you can see my highest day, lowest day, best day, all that type of stuff. I am also going to break down the trades I had this week, and I thought this Topstep will have a better graph to show you guys all the trades. The only thing I can view from this platform is only these things. My profit is 2,541, and I'm very close to 3,000. My days traded was 3. Consistency is 59. It's supposed to be 50 or less, but I am going to take one more trade, and that should be 50%. And my worst day is 490. Best day P&L is 1520, and I actually did make 1530, but since there's fees, it took off some amount, and it is what it is. If I do go down more, you can see my entries and my exits and the trades that I took so far. So first week of November, 1530. Then the next week, 46, which was last week. And this week on the Tuesday, I did win 1511. And I am going to break down the trade right now. Before we break down the trade, I'll show you guys Monday and show you guys what the charts were looking like. And also the previous week, because that is basically what creates the channel. Because when you look backwards, you can see what the channels are. And on Thursday, we had this area right here. And that was when I lost the trade, because that was basically the previous day's lows. It was a break, retest, short, and I did take it too early, and I did lose that trade. The next day, it creates the new supply zone, which is right there. So if the market does get back above, I can play a break and retest long. And since that didn't happen, the market just went down, and then it created this pre-market low. And that was when I drew my box like this. I drew my box like this. This was Thursday, this was Friday. The market was in a range, and since it was in the range still, I did not take a trade. This is what creates my strategy. I have a range, and I don't take a trade until it does do a break and retest. The range can stay like this the whole week, but it makes it stronger if it keeps tapping these supply zones and demand zones, and it hasn't breaking it since. But once it finally does give me that break, I can do a retest long or a short. Here is Tuesday now, and this is when I did take the trade. I did take a break and retest short, and if you guys remember, the channel that I had was this channel right here, and it was the same on the ES. And when the market gives you opportunities, that is when I took my trade. The market was in a range, and then it finally did a break under that level, which was outside my zone, and then I took a retest short off that level. It's pretty simple. I have a range for the whole week, or new ranges are created every single day, and if it does break outside my zones that I like, I then take a break and retest short or a break and retest long. Going into the 2-minute now, what I charted out was a pre-market low. The market started opening right here, and then it went up, and I was like thinking maybe there's going to be no trades today, because the market might just get bought back up, but then later it starts falling down, and then later it gave me that retest, and I took my trade right there. For this trade, I had a lot of emotions starting to come again, because I am actually trading like real money. And although right now we're still in a challenge, it still feels like I'm putting real risk on the table, because before it would be paper trading. I haven't traded a live account in a while, so that's why I'm feeling more emotions. But I know I got to stick to the process. I know that I can't just exit out trades and just enter in randomly, and I just got to stick to my system. For this trade, I kind of hesitated a little bit, but I still got my TP. This is basically the break and retest that you're looking for. But for me, I took the retest right here on this counter right here, and although it wasn't like the best retest, it's still a retest. And if you have a proper game plan, like have your stop loss just above the level, that can still be the break and retest, because it can come back up more. And if you know your risks and you're comfortable with your risks, then that is fine. Normally I do like a better retracement, because this is kind of like straight down, but if you're actually watching the candles, you can actually see that it did go down, and it rejected twice. It went back up. It wicked exactly at the level that I wanted to, and then it went back down, and I did take the trade. Here's the live trade. And keep in mind that my zones are about this area right here, and it's a 6640 to the 6635. And I don't have my zones charted out here, because I am looking through my trading view and just pressing the button on my Topstep. For this trade, I ended up risking about $600, and I kind of hesitated on my contract sizing, because I'm still getting used to like just understanding the contracts. I had to always look at the points and just readjust whenever. But then I kind of hesitated. The trade was kind of going too far, so I just pressed enter. I kind of got more contracts than I wanted to. The risk was still there. I was still okay with it, and that's why I just entered the trade. I was risking about 10 points, and I should have got less contracts. And since I'm only targeting 1500, I'm actually making less than 3 to 1 in this trade, which I'm not too happy about. But if I did take it early, I would have actually got my 3 to 1 like easily. You know, things happen. I can't always execute like super A+. All right, let me pause it real quick. So what I'm looking at right now is that I have a zone right here, 66.40 to 66.35. If I go back to my trading view, the 66.40 to the 66.35, and that was the zone I had. Why I had that zone? Because we go to the 1 hour chart, it is the low and the pre-market low right here, and also right here. And it also, when I zoom out in the bigger time frames, it kind of aligned better with 66.40, and that can also be the level. So that's why I also had a zone right there instead of just having the exact pre-market low. Basically, I was debating if I want to take the level on 66.35 or 66.40, but the market started breaking down, and I just knew that it kind of needs to retrace more, right? Because it was kind of straight down. This was exactly straight down, and that's why I was risking 66.40. This is already the break of 66.40. Later, it comes back up to retest the level, retest, and it rejects right away. That's the first kind of reject. Even though that rejected, I know that I still need more time. I still need more. I just need to see more confirmation. I need to see more, and then that is when the next candle was going back up. I was like, okay, this is the retracement I need. I'm trying to see if it actually rejects this 66.40, and then it had a nice wick, and it went back down. And I was like, okay, this is a good trade. And that was when I was risking about 7 points. That would have been fine. I'll be risking $500. But since I kind of hesitated on my contracts, it went down too much right here. And I just kept the same contracts. And then I just entered the trade. But then now I was risking about 10 points. But now my risk is 600. So that's the only bad thing I did about the trade. If I'm looking at where the trade went, it wouldn't have been a 3 to 1. I wouldn't have won the trade. But since I'm risking more, I was able to get $1,500 right here without making it a 3 to 1. So it was about like 2.38, and it's okay because I messed up, but I would actually only target a 3 to 1 if I'm just actually getting this. Normally I only target 3 to 1, that's what I'm saying, but since I'm only targeting a 1500 right now, that's what really matters. So that's why I didn't really mind that it wasn't a 3 to 1 trade. Playing back to trade, I was thinking that maybe I had to risk this amount right here, like this wick high, but I was like, that might be too much. That might be like closer to $700. I'm like, oh, this might be too much. Watching this trade, I was thinking that maybe it's gonna retrace more and that I might have to move my stop loss like a bit higher, but it didn't really retrace. It kind of just went straight down. But right here, I was thinking that it might retrace up and then go back down. But if I fast forward this, it didn't really do anything, and it just went back down. So that was when I thought maybe I should move my stop loss to break even, or not break even, but just at this wick high. If it gets above that, then I'm like, this trade can probably reverse on me. I didn't want to move it to this too quick because I know that it just needs more retracement. Like it needs to go up more, but it hasn't really done that yet. It needs to pull back a bit more higher, and it hasn't really. So that's why I moved my stop loss to there. Get stopped out, then I lose a bit, but I know that I had to put the proper risk. I can't put it at the break-even line because the wick is a bit higher, so it doesn't make sense for me to do that. Fast forward the trade, and then I literally just got my TP3. Like the market just kept tanking, and sometimes that's how the trade is. I was only in the trade for like 10 minutes and it felt nice. This moment here, 1500, and yeah, that is basically it. Looking back at this trade, I kept debating if this was actually a good trade because the retest was not the best and my execution wasn't the best, but I still won. But just because you won, it doesn't mean that it's your setup, or just because you won, it doesn't mean that you did a good job. For this trade, I won, so that's a W. But the execution wasn't the cleanest. The retest was not the cleanest, but I had a proper game plan and I liked the trade, so I took the trade. So I feel like that's fine. But the only thing that I didn't do right was just the execution. But I can always just get better over time, and it's not the same as my trading view. And I don't like how I had to like adjust my contracts. But when you have a lot of contracts like that, then that's what you basically got to do if you're risking a certain amount. Just from looking at these charts, if I look at the Nasdaq, you can see that the wick here is right at this high, and also the ES is at this high right here, even at 66.40. But as you see that, if you have your stop loss just above the wick or at the level right here and right here on the Nasdaq, that was basically the break and retest, and it never got above the level. So technically, you don't even have to change anything. If you just had a proper game plan and you had a proper stop loss, that trade would have worked beautifully. Even though I risked a higher amount, like 10 points, that was still gonna work. This was gonna be a 3 to 1 right here. Since I was only trying to make $1,500 because that's my profit target, I can't really make more because it's not going to fit the consistency rule. Although my risk was a bit higher, I was able to get my profit target, but it wasn't exactly a 3 to 1. That's the only problem about my trade, because my strategy is a 3 to 1. I don't ever take trades if it's not 3 to 1, but I was game planning for this 3 to 1, but my execution was a bit sloppy, so it made it less than 3 to 1. And I'm okay with that, but I know what I had to do in the future. I might hesitate again on the contracts, and I just might do the same thing. What I did actually do was just targeting a 3 to 1. I would have moved my stop loss to that area right here where I showed you guys, and I would have got stopped out right here. I had to stick to my game plan. I have a stop loss. I move my stop loss to break even once I get a 2 to 1, and that is what I do. Maybe in the future I might take off my stop loss, but for now I had to always back test and always see what really works. Before I break down the next couple of days, I do want to show you guys exactly where I got the levels, so you guys can actually learn and maybe take something from this. But I am going to the 30-minute chart right now, and what I had was before the 6640, which was right here, and I also, let me change this, 6640, and also the 6635. All right, let's just leave it like that. So I'm gonna draw a zone right here. That's what I had. It's a bit weird because obviously there's the next couple of days that formed, but I'm gonna go to the bigger time frames and show you guys why these levels are important. First of all, when you're charting, you always want to look at the bigger time frames, 1 hour, 4 hours, daily chart. But I mainly use 1 hour to 4 hour chart, and then what I do, I look to the left. So right now we're in this present day, which is November. I go to the left, this right here, November, like early November, still not enough, it's still not touching my zone. So I go out further, and now we're looking at, right now here is September, right? You can see 6640, holding right there, holding. General holds around there, and also here as well, exactly around there. That is also why I have 6635, because it could be these lows right here. It could have been this low, it could have been these lows right here, because you see the candles are just opening and closing right at exactly at the 6635, and then it's generally around this area right here, but it's not too clean. And that is why also when you had to look at the intraday, or like the closer dates, going back to the 15-minute time frame, you can see the pre-market. I have 20 lines here, but you look at the pre-market, and this was a Tuesday of when I took the trade, right? That's when I took the trade. You can see around the pre-market low, the exact pre-market low was right here. Not exactly at 6635, but you can see that it's close to that range. And then I didn't know exactly if it was going to be that level or if it was going to be 6640, because in the bigger time frames, 6640 was also kind of aligning properly. So that's why I also had that as a zone. This is what happens in intraday. The market opens, it tries to go down, but then it doesn't go down, it goes back up. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's no trade here. But later on, it does break down. And now what happens here is basically where the money is made. You really want to focus on the retest level. So right here, it's a break. It says I have two zones. I'm trying to make sure if it's either a 6635 or a 6640. Since it's break, this 6635 could still hold up the market, but I'm just trying to see what levels actually make sense. It starts breaking down more, and then I'm like, okay, it's breaking down more. Maybe the actual retest is 6640 because it's rejecting here and rejecting here. I got in this candle because it was rejecting nicely. It had two rejects, and the market can still go up, still retest this level, and then go back down. That would have been a better retest, more confirmation. But if you waited too long, you would have missed a trade. You're missing the trade, but this was the proper retest that you really needed, and that was the retest. But sometimes it doesn't do that. Sometimes this could have been the retest, and it goes down, but then later it just goes back up, and you don't get your trade anymore. This is still a retest, but this is a better retest. Looking down to Wednesday now, this is Wednesday, and this was the Tuesday that I did take the trade. This is Tuesday. So what I do in the next day is that I mark out the levels. This was my previous day's lows, and then I have a supply rejection, which was all the way up here. I still might take a trade if I had levels here, but I did not have levels there. So the only trade I'll actually take, since this is my new range, I'm only gonna wait till the market breaks above this zone or it breaks under this zone. Since the market was in this area, I don't take a trade. So all I do is just walk away because it's not doing a break and retest. It's just as simple as that. If you have a strategy, you mark out your levels and you don't see it, you don't take a trade. It's just that simple. Follow your plan, follow your rules, and stick to the system, because that's what's gonna make you money. Breaking down the current day, which is Thursday, and we actually do have one more trading day tomorrow, so we can still take a trade and I'll update this. But so far I only took the Tuesday trade and I'm up 1500. And yeah, I break down Thursday. So what happened was that I am gonna go to the bigger time frames. The market was kind of weird. The market was just randomly going up and down, and it was just really weird. And then later just go straight down. So I don't know what's happening here. There's probably some sort of like manipulation or something, because the market just went straight down after. But when I go to the bigger time frames, the market had a previous day's highs right here, and then the market kind of gapped up, and then later it just fell back all the way down. So it had a nice gap up, everything was up, all the stocks are up, and then later it just went back down in the intraday. But I do actually have a strategy that I used to do, and I probably still will do it, but I haven't seen it in a while. But I kind of saw it today, and it wasn't as clean though. So what I do is I chart out previous day's highs, and if the market kind of gaps up like this is a gap up, and if it fills back under the previous day's highs, which was my green dashed lines on the market, I would take a break and retest short. But when I do go to the 2-minute time frames again, that's basically what happened. Market gapped up, it opened here, and it fell all the way down to the previous day's highs, and guess what? That was literally the break and retest. That's like so clean. But I kind of forgot about this kind of like strategy, even though it's still the break and retest. It did happen later day. I kind of left my computer early because this was the range I had, and I wasn't game planning for that. Since this was my whole range, I knew that I wasn't gonna get a break and retest, so I just walked away really early on. Do I regret it? No. But since I saw this trade, since I saw it later, I could maybe stay in my charts longer, but I don't really know. But when I do take out this calculator right here and think about taking this trade, and if I risked around this amount like this and risk the previous highs, that's about 60 points. Honestly, that can work because I can adjust my contracts, and even though it's risking like 60 points, I only usually risk about 30 points, and recently I've been doing risking about 40, 50, but I just adjust my contract size. Even though if it's 100 points, you can adjust your contract size to the certain risk that you're taking, and it works. If you do only have one contract, then that's just like impossible because you can't change anything like that. That's just too much risk. Yeah, so I did not take that trade. It could have worked right here. That was like a super clean. If you can't tell what this is, that is the previous day's highs. It does a break, retest, boom. It's like it's just so A+. If I were to actually trade the trade, I wouldn't have to take a trade because I do look at the ES as well. So if I do look at the ES, it has this previous day's highs right here. But this time right here, as you see, the Nasdaq is breaking down the previous day's highs, but the ES, it's holding the previous day's highs. So I can't take that trade. The only time I take the trade is if the ES breaks down, and it actually did break down. But as you see, this retest is not that clean right here. But again, I probably could have still taken the trade if I had a proper game plan, but I don't like it as much. But who knows? I wasn't actually on my computer, so I don't know if I'll take the trade. But again, I do like a better retracement, and this was a better retracement right here compared to the trade I took this week. But that was basically the break and retest. That is the end of this week. I did make $1,500 this week, and I'm up right now $2,500 out of 3,000. I basically need one more trade to pass this eval, and I could just go from there. We have one more week left of November, and I'm just trying to see if I can pass this 50K combine, and that'll be great because I won't have to pay the next rebuild cycle. I'm not going to rush anything. I'm not going to just force trades. I'm just going to stick to the plan, stick to the strategy, and just keep grinding. Before I end this video off, and if you guys are still watching, then I'm very thankful. But I do want to tell you guys that I do have a Discord community in the description box below, and it's free. You guys can join. Right now, it's only one member. He joined a while ago, and it's not really active, but it can be active if people are joining, and I can just talk about trading, and we can just talk about anything trading related or anything about self-improvement, all that type of stuff. Anyways, what I like to say in every single video, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Keep staying disciplined, keep staying consistent, and let's just get 1% better every day, and I'll see you in the next one.